today. This Saturday, the UFC is headed back to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. We're in the main and the co-main event. Two former Brazilian world champions, two kings of the Brazilian arena, will step back into the octagon. But the real question is, for how much longer after both of these fights? All of these questions and more on today's episode of Matter of Fact MMA. What's up? What's happening? Let's go. What's up, guys? We right back at it. We right back with it. It's your boy Matt, and we are here to go over the main and the co-main event coming up this Saturday. It's UFC Brazil. UFC, more importantly, or maybe a little bit more precise, if you will, UFC going to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. We're in the main event. Charlie Oliveira will step in the octagon with Mateusz Gamrot. Now, there has been a whirlwind surrounding Charles Oliveira fighting in the main event of this show. Because in case you were living under a rock, the summer we just came out of, last summer, I know what you did last summer. You were watching Ilia Topuria go out there and knock out Charles Oliveira. Or Charlie Olives, as I like to call him. So there's been a lot of controversy surrounding this return to the octagon and a return so quickly. Now, originally this fight was supposed to be between Charles Oliveira and Rafael Fiziev. All right? But Rafael Fiziev had to pull out of that fight, so in enters Mateusz Gamrot. Interesting thing about Mateusz Gamrot, and this is just what I'm hearing. I think I heard this on the Guru Mighty Mouse show, maybe. But Mateusz Gamrot actually heard that Fiziev was pulling out of the fight and went ahead and flew to American Top Team here in America and was waiting on the call. He was waiting on the call. He figured he might get the call. He went ahead and flew here so he would be in position, ready to start training and everything for the call. He wasn't worried about it with short notice. He wasn't worried about it against Charles Oliveira. The man was TTG, trained to go, and he was ready to go. So, with that being said, man, Oliveira. Now, when this fight was first announced against Fiziev, I came on this channel and I said I didn't really think it was a good idea. Now, I'm a huge Charles Oliveira fan, and I really felt like it just wasn't a good idea. Too soon. That was a bad knockout against Ilia, although Charles actually regained consciousness pretty quick. At the same time, man, it was a bad knockout. So I thought this is a little bit too soon. You might need to give yourself a little bit more time to recover and get ready. Not so fast, says Charles Oliveira. The UFC is headed to Brazil, so I'm headed to Brazil too. But now that Fiziev has pulled out of this fight, for me, this fight, or the whole complexion of Charles Oliveira competing this quickly, has changed. The reason why I say that is Fiziev is not going out there looking for a submission. Fiziev is not looking for any sort of a ground game, right? That's not his game. If he's going to the ground or if he's up against the cage, it's in some sort of a defensive manner or scrambling. That man is a headhunter and he's a body worker, and that was going to be a huge pause. But he's a headhunter and he's a body worker. He's going to take these shots to the body. He's aiming for the kidneys. He's aiming for the ribs with a lot of his body kicks. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't do a ton of body punches. You know, you do see him do that. I'm pretty sure he actually uncorked a few in his last fight. But that's not really Fiziev's game. Fiziev is going to strike. Fiziev is going for your head. Fiziev's trying to put you down. Or if he can't do that, he's trying to go out there and win that 5-round decision. But you're going to take a lot of blows. Mateusz Gamrot is not that style of a fighter. Now, that's the obvious. So let's get right to the point. I am picking Charles Oliveira to go out there and beat Mateusz Gamrot. I feel like while Mateusz's striking has looked a lot better since what we've seen in the early part of his UFC career, he doesn't seem to have lost a step wrestling wise. But I will say that his constant, when the in a lot of Gamrot fights, when you get to about the third round, if it's a 5 round fight, definitely around the third round. But if it's a 3 round fight, two and a half rounds, you know what I'm saying? Beginning of the third, halfway through the second, is usually when you're going to see Mateusz Gamrot. I'm not going to say he gets tired, but if his opponent is able to continue to thwart off the takedown attempts, or if they catch him with any shot that hurts him, rocks him, wobbles him, anything like that, he begins like this like annoying shoot dead for the ankles. Right for the ankles, you know what I'm saying? Homie ain't going for the waist no more. Homie is going right for your ankles. Right? Which is why he's been caught with a few knees, but he's never been, you know, I mean, they've cost him a few times, but at the same time, he's never really ate anything that literally ended it right then and there. And so with that being said, man, when I'm looking at this, Charles do Bronx at this stage in his career, he can go the 5 rounds. He's got the stamina for that. I don't see Gamrot being able to knock him out or put him down before that 5 round bell sounds, right? So with that being said, if Oliveira is able to keep Mateusz Gamrot at bay, of course he's going to get taken down. If he takes down Oliveira in the first or the second round, Oliveira is probably more than likely, of course, going to be scrambling for some sort of a submission. But if he can't get it, he's smooth to ride that round out. His Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is good enough to where he can ride out the rest of that round. He doesn't have to worry about being submitted. Mateusz Gamrot doesn't do a ton of damage once he gets an opponent to the ground. He'll take little pot shots, small punches, maybe a few elbows, but nothing really dramatic. And I definitely don't expect him to do that against Charles Oliveira because of the threat of the submission. So with that being said, if this goes to the ground, I think Oliveira will wait it out till he sees the opportunity to be able to cinch up something off of his back or to be able to get back to his feet. Or he's just content to ride out the round. Because when the round begins again on the feet, Charles Oliveira is really good at throwing knees up the middle, even switch knees. And then on top of that, regardless if it's on the feet, Charles Oliveira has the advantage. Period. Right? So that's quite a few stand-ups that he's going to have the chance to be set right there in front of Mateusz Gamrot. He knows within, maybe Mateusz throws a jab. Usually Mateusz will throw that jab and instantly go to a shot. You know what I'm saying? Especially later in the fight when he begins to get tired or fatigued or he's been caught with something that hurt him. Sometimes he kind of throws like this awkward, like he almost shoots his hand out because he's definitely not expecting to land anything. It's just to thwart the eyes or throw off the eyes of his opponent, in which he can shoot, like I said, late in the fight, almost damn near at their ankles. You know what I mean? That's just not going to cut it against Charles do Bronx Oliveira. It's just not. It's just not. And you're asking to get kneed in the face, or you're asking, if you go for the man's waist when you go for the takedown, you're asking to get cinched up into some sort of guillotine. You're asking for the man to jump to Gilly, is what I'm saying. And when Charles Oliveira jumps to Gilly, people's neck break. Their whole head rolls off in the octagon. And that's it. That's the end of the fight. Happy Halloween. A man is gone. He gone in the middle of the octagon. That's what I'm talking about. I'm making a joke out of it, but at the end of the day, I think Charles do Bronx Oliveira goes out there and defeats Mateusz Gamrot. I don't see Mateusz being able to hurt him on the feet and get him out of there. I don't see Gamrot being able to cinch up any sort of a submission. I mean, I know he goes for head and arm chokes, different things like that, but at the same time, is that going to work against Charles Oliveira? I don't really think that it will. And I think Charles Oliveira is going to have the bigger gas tank. And even though he just got floored, flatlined, starched, body bagged, whatever you want to say, by Ilia Topuria a few months ago, I don't think that same threat on the feet coming from the hands is going to be there with Mateusz Gamrot. So I'm going along with Charles Oliveira to get the win in the main event of UFC Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Nevertheless, man, let's move on to the co-main event. We have former flyweight champion, Deiveson Figueiredo, Figgy Smalls, stepping in the octagon with Montel Jackson. Look, man, it depends on how you want to look at this fight. Montel Jackson has looked outstanding. Montel Jackson has looked unstoppable. There's no one taking that away from him. No one's gonna throw that out there. Yeah, he's had a few slow moments in fights, but at the same time, the man has gotten the job done. But Deiveson Figueiredo has lost a few fights, you know what I'm saying, recently. Let me just take a look at that. I mean, his last fight, he lost against Corey Sandhagen. Before that, he lost against Piotr Jan. Before that, I mean, he beat Chito Vera, but, you know, it's kind of weird that no one even considers Chito Vera a threat, where like 3 years ago, he was the man. But that's just how quickly the sport changes. Nevertheless, man, Deiveson Figueiredo, I mean, he's a legend, bro. He's a legend. And I know that Montel is bigger. I know he's got the range on him, you know, and he almost has that, in a way, that they don't fight the same at all, but the power translates. Montel Jackson almost has that, he almost has that Deontay Wilder type power. He's long, he's rangy, and when he lands, just people just die. Like, they just go, you know what I'm saying? And so, in a way, man, it's just like, that's definitely a factor in this. You know, definitely Montel Jackson has been working more on his submissions, a lot more on his grappling, so he will definitely not be a slouch in the arena. Of course, his wrestling, he has somewhat of a wrestling background. So, I mean, you know, he's definitely not going to be no slouch, but at the same time, man, Deiveson Figueiredo, we talking about Figgy Smalls, has had a tremendous strength of schedule. You know what I'm saying? His last two losses were against Piotr Jan and against Corey Sandhagen. You know, who else has he been losing to? You know what I'm saying? Brandon Moreno, you know what I'm saying? I mean, what are we doing here? I mean, this is one of the greats of the sport. He's fighting there in Brazil. You know, I expect it to be fairly comfortable for him. I'm not going to say he's going to walk through Montel Jackson. I don't think that that's going to be the case. I think this could even be a war. But I think Deiveson Figueiredo has what it takes. He's the veteran. He's got the know-how. He's got the will. I think he goes out there. I think he defeats Montel Jackson. Now, it could go to decision because I don't think Montel Jackson's going to be easy to defeat. But I think Deiveson Figueiredo goes out there and gets the job done. So, in my opinion, this Saturday, we have two former Brazilian champions. Deiveson Figueiredo goes out there and defeats Montel Jackson, and I got Charles Oliveira defeating Mateusz Gamrot. Please like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know your pick for both of these fights. And once again, I do want to thank you guys for joining me for another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. And I'll check you next time. Peace.